Hello, my name is Fatima Uygun. I'm a food activist and chef, and today I'm going to show you two fantastically easy, delicious and nutritious recipes you can make for this coming festive season. And the film you're about to see has been brought to you by Glasgow Fairtrade Co-op and the Scottish Fairtrade Forum. And I'd like to thank Green City, Scotland's largest suppliers of Fairtrade products, for kindly donating the ingredients for these two recipes. And those recipes are a wonderfully colourful and delicious maftool salad, which is a type of couscous, a maftool salad that is fit for any festive table. And for dessert, a beautiful majul date and nut baklava cigars coated with crushed pistachios. Let's get started on our majul date and nut baklava. First though, we're going to start on the sherbet, which is that lovely syrup that coats the baklava after it's cooked. So everything in one pot here. So the first thing we're going to do, and let's measure our ingredients because it's really important that we don't get it too sweet. And once you've perfected the syrup, you can of course add or change it as you please. So the first thing we need is quite a lot of sugar. So we're going to put about a cup of sugar in here. Quite a lot, I know, but you know, baklava is sweet. So sugar, we're going to have about half a cup of honey. I'll tell you some vegan alternatives for those of you who don't like to eat the food of the bees. In a minute. So about half a cup, I know, quite a lot of honey, but this does feed a lot of people, and it really needs this sweetness to make it what it is. So we are going to also cut through that sugar with some lemon juice. Lovely. With some lemon juice. So about juice of one lemon. Now some people argue that you should put the lemon at the end, but to be honest, I've made this lots of times in different variations on this, and I've never really noticed the difference. So about juice of one lemon. Now, you've got a choice here. You can add some lovely orange blossom water, which I have to warn you is very, very strong. Or you can use some rose water. Now, I'm going to use rose water because I really like the taste of rose water. So we're going to use about a teaspoon of, no, you can use two teaspoons if you like. Really, as much as, if you like Turkish Delight, add a couple of teaspoons in there. If you're using orange blossom water, however, try and cut that down by half because it is very, very strong. Let's add a little bit more in there. That's it. There we go. So, and a stick of cinnamon, yeah? Now, that's quite rich. What we need to do is we also need to add some water. So we're going to add about, I would say about a cup of water. So we need to give that a stir because sugar obviously sinks to the bottom and it doesn't always dissolve. So we're going to put it on the stove and we're going to make sure that we're going to stir it occasionally so the sugar melts. So here we go. I'll put it on the back there and really, I'll get the hob right. Really, there we go. Probably on a medium heat. You don't want it bubbling away. You want a gentle simmer and you want all that sugar dissolved. And what you'll get when you know it's ready is you'll lift your spoon up and you'll see a lovely shine and a lovely gloss to it, and it will just beautifully coat the spoon quite evenly. So I'm just going to stir that a bit to help the sugar dissolve. Yes, the cinnamon stick in here is quite lovely. It has a little mellow cinnamon taste, but I know cinnamon's not to everyone's taste. So we'll just keep an eye on that. Now, if you don't like honey, which some people don't, and if you don't like to eat raw sugar like that, what you can do is you can substitute the sugar for orange juice, and you can substitute the honey for date syrup, which are both easily available in the supermarket. So we're going to let that simmer away, probably for about 10-15 minutes. All depends on your own stove, but just keep an eye on it. We don't want a thick molasses. We want quite a syrupy juice, and then we're going to put that all over our baklava. And now we're going to make the actual baklava for this dish. Now, firstly, let's just go through the ingredients. Basically, it all goes into one bowl, but we do have a number of steps here. So firstly, I've got some beautiful medjool dates here. And of course, the product we're using is zaytun, which we're featuring here. And what we've done is we've soaked them for about 10 or 15 minutes just to plump them up and take some of the hardness off there. And we're going to add that to this. We've got about 180 grams, to be about 1.5 cups of each really, of almonds, which we've ground, and some walnuts. Now you can do this by hand. It's actually quite a therapeutic thing, or if you've got a food processor, it will only take a few minutes in there. So we're going to add our dates to that, and really everything just goes into the one bowl. So I'll bring the bowl here. I'm going to add a bit of salt in there. Salt and sweet things actually go really well together. I always find that a bit of salt in chocolate and so on really helps enhance the sweetness. So to that, we're going to add a couple of ingredients that we're going to zest. One is an orange, a beautiful orange here. And what I find is the orange and dates go particularly well together. So just make sure when you're zesting that you don't go right through to the white bit, which is a bit, well, it's not nice, it's not pleasant, is it? The reason we're putting the zest in there and not the juice is we don't want this mixture to be wet, yeah? We don't want our phyllo pastry to be soggy. I think it's quite a large orange, so I think that's fine. And also, we've got some lemon here. Beautiful. Again, a very large lemon. Lovely. Now, I'm also going to add some cinnamon. Now, we've already got a bit of cinnamon in the syrup that I showed you a few minutes ago. There we go. But I'm also going to add a little bit more cinnamon to this now. So just a sprinkle. Now, probably about half a teaspoon. You can add a little bit more if you like. That's plenty. Now, that's really our dry ingredients plus the dates. Just going to give them a rough mixture because I am going to add a little bit of honey to help bind that together. And that's going to give us a lovely sticky mixture that we're going to put in between our phyllo sheets. So about a tablespoon of honey. Now, I know you're going, oh my God, it's so sweet. But remember, you're only meant to have 1 or 2 pieces of this, and you'll get about 50 or 60 pieces. So it goes a long way. Or you can do what I do and gradually just demolish the lot over a week. So I'm going to get my hand in there to just get this all mixed. Now, folks, whenever you're mixing something by hand, it's always good to just use one hand because you're going to need the other hand to pick stuff up and move things about, okay? So what we're getting is we're getting almost like a stuffing mixture. So there you go. Beautiful, all combined. It actually smells absolutely gorgeous with the citrus of the oranges and lemon, the beautiful caramelized smell that you get from the dates. Lovely. So there's our mixture. And I'm just going to go and wash my hands, and then I'm going to show you how to lay out the baklava and to fill the sheets of phyllo. So now we're going to make the baklava, the filling. We're going to make them in the shape of cigars. And you'll get baklava in all sorts of shapes, in diamonds, in little snail like wraps. You can get them flat, you can get them in thin slices. But these are cigars. Now, of course, you don't have to make them cigars. If you like your baklava in squares, by all means, make them in squares. You'll get phyllo from the supermarket. Sometimes you get them already cut to a particular size. These are from the Asian shops, very, very long. But here's a little trick. If you're going to make the normal baklava sheets, which we then cut, try and already measure your baking tray and actually cut them while they're still in the roll. So just slice it down the side. And that's easier then when you open them up not to be fiddling about with it, but it's very forgiving. People panic when they go, oh, my baklava's all ripped and so on. Don't worry. So we've got a full sheet here, which I'm going to butter, yeah? So what we're going to need for these cigars is quite a generous amount of butter. Now I'm leaving the sheets at the bottom. I'm not taking one off and then putting it at the top, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this sheet around. So nice bit of butter, because I like to use 2 sheets. I'm just going to turn the sheet over, and then I'm going to butter the other side, and that way we've got a layer of butter in the middle, yeah. Great. Okay, so here's just to keep an eye on our syrup, yeah? So give that syrup a stir to make sure that all those sugar crystals have been dissolved and there's no lumps in there and nothing gritty at the bottom. That's looking great. And I can already see it's thickening up. And you can tell from the surface you've got tiny, tiny, tiny little bubbles. There, lovely. So, I'll use this spoon actually. So, we're going to put, that's my oven telling me that it's preheated and ready. So what you want to do is make sure your oven is about 180 degrees. So, just have a look here. I'm putting our filling for our phyllo along a straight line, but I'm leaving about 10 centimeters at either end because we're going to fold them in to keep the baklava all together. Yeah, so take your 2 sheets. That might be a little bit fiddly, folks. Don't panic. Don't worry if it sticks a bit. It's going to all be fine. So there you go. I've rolled these up like this, and I'm just going to fold the edges in. See that? And that way, that's going to keep our baklava all nicely tucked in. Try and keep it about a similar size, yeah? Sometimes the filling is a bit lumpy, don't worry. But basically, you want it all nice little, there you go. Look at that, isn't that lovely? Now, just before the end, I would also do a little butter. There we go. And then we're going to put it straight into the tray. Okay, lovely. And then what we'll do, you can butter the tray, but there's going to be so much butter in there, really, that it won't stick, believe me. So let's do this again. There we go. Good dash of it. Now, you can, of course, if you're making a vegan version, you can use some oil. Now, folks, if you're going to use oil, use a very, very light oil, something that doesn't have much taste. Don't use olive oil because it can overpower it. Just really, literally a very, very light coating of oil, far less than you would in the butter. Okay, so there's our, so there we go. Just keep, so the first one was a little bit fat, wasn't it? Yeah, I got carried away there chatting to you. There we go. So let's just make sure it's all evenly laid out. Lovely. There we go. So again, take the edges of your 2 phyllos and fold them in. Now I noticed, because that's what you do when you're cooking, sometimes you need to just adapt. That first one I made was a little bit long, yeah? So I'm going to make sure that this is not as fat and not as long. And just like with pancakes and everything you do the first go, the first one's not always perfect, but this is looking much better. There you go. This is a great little recipe to do with the wee ones, with the little kids during Christmas. Because the phyllo is forgiving. So what happens if it rips? Just put a Band-Aid on it. Just get another bit of phyllo and wrap it around. Don't panic. I can hear my syrup bubbling away there. Now look at that. Isn't that bonny? And that, there we go. That's a perfect fit. Oh, I should tell you though, try and keep try and keep the join at the bottom. Yeah, we don't want it opening up. So I'm just going to switch off the heat for our syrup because I'm pretty sure it's made. And can you see that lovely coating it puts on the spoon? So that's quite thick. It's a lovely golden color as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that off the heat. I'll take the cinnamon stick away. And we're going to remove that off the heat and we're going to let it cool because we can't put hot syrup on a hot baklava. We're going to put it on, we're going to make sure it's cold and we're going to put it on the baklava as soon as it comes out of the oven. So let's continue making our phyllo stuffing. Yep. So we're just going to roll the last one out, and of course we get to the end, and what always happens is the last one's always perfect. You start with some lumpy ones, but of course by the time you get to the last one you all absolutely know what you're doing. Okay, so what we've got is we've got our lovely rolled cigars. Well, they're not cigars at the moment. They're very long cigars if they are. What we're going to do is we're going to cut them. Okay, so this is the time now. We're going to cut them. Now, I'm going to cut these into 4. So make sure that they're evenly cut. So a good tip is to use your knife and rather than go up and down, use your elbow to give it a good rocking motion. So you're actually not taking the knife out at any stage. We'll turn it around. Lovely. So there we go. Give it a good. So then I can evenly now cut them into half again. It really is forgiving. They don't have to be perfect, folks, you know. So I'll just turn it around and make sure they're all, the cut goes right through. Now, the reason we're doing this now and not later is because the phyllo will just crack and it will go all over the place. So it's best to have all of them cut now. Lovely. Now, just to remind you, our oven is preheated at 180 degrees and it will take anything between 15 to 20 minutes to brown. It's really important that they're not burnt, but you do want a nice golden colour. And I know some people like their baklava very lightly brown. I like mine quite a caramel colour. So there we go. I'm going to now put that in the oven and keep an eye on it. So now I'm going to get our majul date and nut baklava out of the oven because it's had its 25 minutes and it's looking absolutely gorgeous, golden brown. There we go. Isn't that lovely? Now, your oven's probably the same as mine in that it doesn't always cook evenly, even though it's a new oven. You'll see that this side of the oven is a bit browner than this side, so it might pay for you to turn the tray around during halfway through the cooking. So what I'm going to do now is to the hot baklava, I'm going to add the cool sherbet syrup. You'll hear it sizzle because if you can hear close enough, so beautiful. And you'll see that syrup. It's not too thick, but it's not completely runny. And what we're doing is we're pouring this over every single one of our baklava cigars. And you will use all of the syrup. There we go. And don't worry this will all be absorbed in the baklava. So by the time the baklava cools down, all this syrup will have been absorbed. Lovely. There we go. You don't have to use all the syrup, of course, but I like to. The other thing that syrup is really, really good for is for ice cream or anything sweet, really. It's also lovely in a bit of coffee and some whiskey, if you're that way inclined during the festive season. So I'm going to let this cool down and then come back and we'll show you the two finished recipes that we made today. So I've plated up my baklava and you can see all those beautiful cigar-shaped individual baklavas came quite easily out of the pan. And what remaining syrup I did have, I put it on top. And now I'm just going to sprinkle some ground pistachios onto my cigar baklavas. Beautiful. And of course you can get much greener pistachios, one where the husk and the skin has been removed from the actual seed, but I quite like this golden colour. Beautiful. Lovely. So there you have our medjool date and nut baklava that we made. Very, very easy, very cheap to make, and we've sprinkled some lovely crushed pistachios on that.